Hey everyone, my name is Brendan and welcome back to the channel, and I hope all of you guys are having a great day no matter where you are from, because there's a lot happening in the world of cryptocurrency at the moment. So most recently, we had a US judge say that Celsius Network actually owns the large majority of their customers' deposits. We'll talk about how this is probably going to lead to a quite tragic outcome for a lot of the people that lost money in Celsius, but a lot of people were hoping that this money that they lost on Celsius would get recovered eventually, whether it was a month from now, a year from now, 5 years from now, kind of similar to what happened with Mt. Gox, but it's slowly looking like that is not going to be the case for a lot of these people who did lose money. Now, on top of this, Silvergate Capital is tanking at the moment after a couple of their recent disclosures about how they have been performing over the last couple of quarters, and there is a bit of crypto layoffs happening to both Huobi and Genesis. Now, the Genesis one shouldn't come as a surprise. We've covered with really what's happening with Genesis in our last video, so if you missed that, definitely check out the previous video, because they are in their own little scandal between DCG and Gemini, and there's almost $1 billion that is missing here, and someone's at fault. So is it shocking that Genesis is laying people off? I would say no, but we're going to be diving into all of this and much more in today's video. So if this does sound interesting, make sure you stick around for the entire length of this video, as there will be important information discussed the entire way through. But that being said, let's go ahead and dive on in here head first into Celsius, and then we will work our way through the rest of this news. So what's happening with Celsius? Well, Celsius happened about 9 months ago, and they became insolvent. They were trying to find someone to buy them out and really bail them out, kind of with what happened to Voyager. But Celsius was an unfortunate falling that pretty much happened because of what FTX was doing behind the scenes and what was happening to Terra Luna and UST. Now, those two entities, those two projects, kind of led to the downfall of Celsius. It was a very unfortunate set of circumstances, but you can't help but believe that Celsius wasn't at least a little bit at fault of this. Now, why is this significant? Because right here we can see that over 600,000 accounts held assets that were valued up to $4.2 billion, and when Celsius filed for bankruptcy and halted their withdrawals, all of these people, all 600,000 people that had over $4 billion worth of cryptocurrency, were unable to withdraw their money. Now, the reality is they probably had a lot less than that in crypto wrapped up here because they became insolvent. So what is going to happen? Well, a lot of these people were hoping that they would get their money back. We saw this happen with Mt. Gox. Granted, Mt. Gox took over 6, almost 7 years for customers to fully get their money back. And a lot of people were hoping that even if it was far down the line, they would get a portion of this money that they lost on Celsius. But what we're seeing now is, with this new evidence, a US judge is saying that Celsius Network actually owns most of their customers' crypto deposits because people kind of signed their lives away when they agreed to put their money there. So could Celsius be a good actor and maybe get this money back to the people? Maybe, but I would say that it would be a whole lot more favorable towards the individuals that held money on Celsius if the US judge said, no, this is the people's money and you have to return it. With it now being Celsius's money, it looks like that if people are going to get any amount back here, it will be a fraction of what they had. So if you had $1,000, maybe you get 50% back, maybe you get 30% back. We truly don't know yet, but it's looking like it is less likely that people will get back a significant amount of the money that they lost in the Celsius thing. So not great news coming out from there, and a pretty unfortunate one. Now, what's happening with Silvergate? Well, Silvergate Capital has tanked more than 40% after they disclosed their massive fourth quarter withdrawals. It says that total deposits from digital asset customers declined from $3.8 billion to $11.9 billion. At the end of the third quarter, the decline was roughly 68%. So it's a pretty nasty one. And as we scroll down over here, there was a piece of information that I really wanted to go over, other than the decline of 68%. That just talks about the whole scenario in more detail. And it comes down over here where it says, in order to raise cash during this period, Silvergate sold $5.2 billion worth of debt securities, creating a loss on the sale of $718 million, and it reported $4.6 billion in total cash and cash equivalents at the end of December of 2022. So with what's happening over here with Silvergate, I don't think people really realized that their losses were so bad. And when it was recorded that their third and fourth quarter losses that were just like this significant, it was a bit of a wake-up call. But it's not just crypto that is seeing these kind of numbers. There's a lot of tech, a lot of banking, pretty much everything. And we'll take a look at the DXY and what's happening with the NASDAQ in just a second here. But Silvergate is getting peppered. So they saw a lot of money in withdrawals. They've seen a decline. And if you have money or you have some sort of exposure to Silvergate, this could be something to keep an eye on. You know, speaking of Celsius earlier and Genesis and Gemini and a lot of these places that had struggled over the last year, and some of them even declaring bankruptcy, Silvergate is going to be another one to keep your eye out on. Now, I don't want to create a lot of FUD, but I think it's important to stay vigilant and stay aware of things that could potentially go south over here. Now, what's happening with Huobi and what's happening with Genesis? Well, Huobi is going to be cutting their staff by 20% in this bear market. A lot of companies are doing this right now. It's no secret. It's not like it's just cryptocurrency companies that are doing this. And Genesis, again, I don't think this one should come as a surprise to anyone. They're in a big debacle with digital, I believe it's Digital Currency Group or Digital Capital Group, about what's happening with Gemini. Now, Gemini is claiming that DCG and Genesis lost nearly $1 billion of customers' funds, and now Gemini has this big hole in their balance sheet. So the way that this worked is that Gemini had an earn program where users could get around 8%. They'd lend that money out to Genesis, where they would do some high-risk trading to maybe generate, let's just say, 20%. So then they would capitalize on the profits in between. The customers would get their 8% and be happy. And then Genesis and Gemini would maybe make the money in between, and they would be happy as well because they were making money on the spread. And they weren't really trading their own capital. So this is how the whole money got lost. Gemini is basically saying, hey, you were doing this and now the money's not there anymore. Genesis and DCG is kind of saying, hey, you know, we don't know what you're talking about. We have paid everything that we owed you. And so that's why there's a big debacle here. So with $1 billion missing, 30% of the workforce getting cut, shouldn't be unexpected. But still not something that we want to see. And again, this is happening all over the place. So this is something I want to kind of turn everyone's attention to. We'll probably revisit this next week as well. But we've talked about the DXY on the channel before. And what this does is it is inversely related to the crypto market, very heavily inversely related to Bitcoin. And so what we want to root for here is this previous top where we saw the DXY top out previously. It's coming back down to this area. And what we want to see is a breakdown below this. Again, it's already using this as support. For the past 4 weeks, the DXY has been holding this zone. But what we want is a steep rejection of the 50-day moving average, which is this purple line. We want a steep rejection of the 50-day moving average, and we want to break down below this zone. And I think it could be a really good thing for Bitcoin and cryptocurrency alike. In fact, it'd probably be a fairly good thing for the stock market as well. But Bitcoin has been fairly uncorrelated to stocks recently. We can see that in recent weeks and even in recent days, the stock market has been getting a little bit peppered, but Bitcoin's been green, and so has Ethereum for the past couple days. I think it had maybe an ever so slightly red day yesterday, but while NASDAQ is approaching these multi-year lows, if we take a look at Bitcoin, we're a little bit farther away than a lot of the stock market is. So these markets are definitely getting more uncorrelated, and I think what we need to see here is for Bitcoin to close over the 50-day moving average and for the DXY to close below the 50-day moving average. So we're crossing our fingers here. We're hoping for a bit of technical analysis, And ideally, this could even lead us to a breakout and soften a lot of the news that we unfortunately got this week between everything that we went over in today's video. So if there's anything to keep an eye out on, this is going to be the important news that you need to know. And if you want to stay up to date with everything that's happening in crypto, this is going to be your #1 place to do it. But of course, I am biased on that matter. So I hope all of you did enjoy this video. Again, we make videos just like this one every single week, multiple times a week. So if you want to stay up to date, definitely stick around. We have a lot of content coming, and it was my pleasure getting to speak with all of you. So again, thank you all for watching, and I will see all of you in next week's video.